Hi, everybody, and welcome to TV3 and the Spartan Sports Report for this week. And we're happy to have the head coach from CHS, head basketball coach, Carrie Brown. Sam and I always welcome Carrie to the show, and it's basketball weather.
Getting there, isn't it? Hi, Fran, Sam.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, good to be here again.
Yeah, it's people probably wonder, what are those guys going to talk about? But round balls in the air.
It is. Girls have started their season, had their scrimmage actually Saturday, and we've got one more week until the boys' season officially starts with tryouts. So,
In 2 weeks from Saturday, I believe you're going to travel to Knightstown for a scrimmage.
sounds about right.
Okay.
2 weeks we have a scrimmage. 1 week into our season we'll have our red-white scrimmage here on Saturday. Second, we'll practice in the morning, then come back in the afternoon and play 5-on-5. So
Okay.
we'll actually get two exhibitions, and one against ourselves and one against Knightstown before we tip it up night before Thanksgiving.
I think you ought to play that at the old Knightstown gym.
You know, the kids would probably like that. From a coaching standpoint, I'm not a big
it's
fan of it because it's so small.
Yeah,
and
sure.
it just doesn't simulate some things in terms of the full court. But the kids, I'm sure, would love it, and it definitely is a neat facility. I was there for a clinic this fall, and I mean, there were people that came from Georgia, probably even farther than that. I can't remember now, but I do remember there was a couple of coaches, and they brought their boys with them from Georgia. So
That's the Hoosiers gym, right?
The Hoosiers gym. They've done a great job of maintaining it and restoring it. It's really nice. If our viewers haven't been there to see it, I would suggest they go look at it.
When was it built? You know, in the 20s?
I think so.
that escapes me.
I would say in the 20s. Yeah. But it's narrow and it's short.
Yeah.
The old double, the double 10-second
okay.
lines and.
What would they do to accommodate that? After you cross the 10-second line, the back line would then be the
backcourt.
the 10-second line going each way. I know
Right.
when I was young, there were some courts in northern Indiana that were like that, so I was familiar with that rule.
The players have to dodge the people's feet, or are they that close to the...
Well, they have, as I recall, they have a wall, and the sides set up a little
okay.
bit, and there's a stage on one end that people would set on. But,
Yes.
yeah, it's not like some of the schools. I remember going to a ball game down at Whitewater Township. We're getting way off subject here, but Whitewater Township, and you'd sit on the front row, and they only had 3 rows, and your feet would be right on the out-of-bounds line.
Gee.
A lot of old gyms were that.
And they actually, for the exhibition games, I'm not sure if they did it back in the day, but they'll put the players and coaches on the ends for these exhibition
like
games.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
What's the regular gym at Knightstown? How is it?
Nice facility. They've put some new facilities up. They've got a turf field and nice weight room and a nice gymnasium facility for a 2A school. They've got really nice facilities up there.
It's good. It's good. While we're on gym floors, the college three-point line is being extended a couple of feet. Have you heard about that?
Is that for this year? That's how little attention I've paid.
Yeah.
This year they're moving it back?
And is there any rumors around Indiana high school games that might?
I've not heard anything. If they do anything, it might be in another state on an experimental basis. But I actually have to take my HSA basketball coach's rules interpretation meeting between now and the start of the season. So I need to get that done. You kind of jog my memory, but I don't see them changing our line. Not at least right now.
I think they moved the Division I for this year, and Division II and NAIA later because the expense of moving the lines. But I think it's the Olympic, or not the Olympic, but the international three-point line is what they're going to.
Yeah.
They experimented with it last year in the preseason NIT, and decided to go with it's what I read. So it'll be interesting. It puts them out, I think, another 18 inches or something, or almost 2 feet.
Right, yeah. Coach, the high school floors, though, when that three-point line touches the end line, it seems like the kid only has a foot or two to shoot from deep in the corner, and I don't think they could move that line.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see a kid that'll step out of bounds because they're trying to get behind the line, but Most of the time, we've got enough room on our floor. But then if you go to like the NBA and the collegiate level where their line is out farther, now the floor is bigger in the NBA.
Right, it's wider.
But they're having some room, especially the longer you are, the more difficult it is for you to keep everything in bounds. And the closer you get to the corner in the NBA, the less room there is down there in that corner. So, but
Right.
you're always saying that's the shot they're looking to take and trying to get or spotting up for.
Yeah. What's interesting, there, people always changing things, aren't they?
Just so they don't change a few of the things about the game. You know, it is what it is.
We won't bring
I mean,
up shot clock.
yeah, I mean, that's one thing, but it is what it is. We just, I guess,
Sure.
we deal with the rule changes, and for the most part, they're well researched and well thought out, and they're supposed to make the game better. Like the football rule this past season on the running clock, that was probably a good rule to implement. So for the most part, I think the people at the National Federation and our local HSAA are making decisions that are what's best for the kids in the game.
Any major changes that the people will notice this year?
Well, since I haven't completed my rules interpretation meeting
Okay.
yet, I'm not aware of any. You know, every year they talk about the physicality of the game and, you know, playing without your hands and keeping your hands off of the offensive player. But usually rule emphasis or uniform is another big emphasis in terms of same collar, or if you're wearing something underneath of it, be a neutral collar or the collar uniform, and you know, head coverings and those types of things, which hopefully, thank goodness, we haven't had to deal with too much or very
Yes.
much at all. So I'll probably get that done this week, and next time I talk to you guys, I'll let you know. Or
Okay.
you'll know by night one anyway.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you talk about rules changes. Several years ago, when we went into the double bonus, they always want to speed up the game, and I never understand that. I want to stay longer, but that was supposed to speed up the game. I think it slowed the game down, the double
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah. Well, I think the thought was you won't foul because now they get 2 free throws, but
Still have
you know,
to.
you still find the guy that you don't think is going to make him and foul him and play on, and that makes me think about there's an experimental rule in the NBA D League or something where I think they're shooting 1 free throw instead of 2. Have you followed that?
No, I haven't seen it.
And I don't know what the results are, but I imagine that's to speed the game up. So you get 1 for 2 points or 1 for 0 points. The thing is, I guess it seems like if you miss, I mean, it really penalizes you, that 1 free throw, because you could miss 1 but still make the back half of it and at least get 1 of the 2 points. So I think that could be really significant, especially late in the game, if they're only giving you 1 free throw and you're fouling that bad free throw shooter.
I had the opportunity this year to get a copy of the tape that when Fran called the 72 state championship, and free throw rules were a lot different then too, because you got 1 shot, but it started over until you got into the bonus. There was only 1 shot, and then after that you would get 1 and 1 or 2. I forget what it is now, but started over every quarter.
I wasn't aware of
I
that.
picked that up listening to Fran from 1972, and that was a lot of fun as well.
Should there be a running clock in other sports?
I haven't given any thought to it. I don't know. I mean,
Yes.
I'm for as little change as possible. Probably, I guess I'd fall into the category of a traditionalist. But I think just there are probably some sports that maybe lend themselves to a running clock more than others. I would say in basketball I wouldn't be in favor of it, but that's just me.
That running clock is when the score gets out of control, I guess, and a referee or an umpire decides that to speed up the game and keep it from getting really out of hand.
Well, hopefully as coaches, if we're in a game like that and we're the team that's ahead, then, you know, we're doing things to help control, not embarrass the team, but you can make extra passes. You can not fast break. I mean, there's things you can do with your kids and your team to
Sure.
not embarrass anybody.
Right.
And not embarrass them the other way either by not playing hard. You can try to execute your offense, but instead of shooting after 1 or 2 passes, you can, you know, do things like 4 or 5 passes, which then in effect controls the time and helps with that time aspect of it.
How's the team looking this edition of the Spartans?
You know, we've had some small college coaches in. Wabash was in most recently, and he was very complimentary of our kids and how hard they're working. And that's what I would say about our kids. I think we have a group of really hardworking kids. We haven't had everybody until most recently, within the last 2 weeks, I would say. So now we've got to take that great effort that we get from the Spartans, and we've got to do a better job, play smarter, and then we've got to do a better job of executing. But it's so smart in the year; those are the things that are going to come along. But if you have to turn them up and wind them up and get them to go hard, that's not a good thing.
Yes.
So I'm glad that effort, that great energy. They've already have that, and then the other parts will come.
Mm-hmm. How many kids were you planning on carrying? 10 to 12 on varsity and JV?
Probably somewhere between 10 and 12 on the freshman team, and then somewhere between 18 and 20 on the JV and the varsity. To me, 18 is kind of a perfect number, but if you've got some other kids that you want to keep in the program because you think maybe they might develop later, then sometimes we'll keep 20. But from a playing time standpoint, if there's 18 kids, that's an 8-man rotation on the varsity, and then that leaves 10 to play on the JV. And with the 5-quarter rule, they can get an extra quarter each evening, or 2, depending on how many they play in the JV game. And so you've got really a 9th and a 10th man who are predominantly JV players, but they're also getting some experience in the varsity game. So 18 is a really good number. Also, it works out because there's 6 baskets, and if you put 3 guys at a basket for shooting drills, things like that, it's a pretty good number to have. But there have been years when we've carried more than 18 kids. And then on the freshman team, because I think there are those kids that change and they haven't grown into their bodies yet. I'm not afraid to keep 12 down there. 10's still a better number in terms of playing time, but that's not their number one goal is, and the JV team is to develop kids. Winning and losing, they're not going to lose their job for not winning games. As long as they're playing the kids and giving them an opportunity to develop, then they're doing what Coach Brown wants them to do.
A lot of kids with a great deal of basketball success are freshmen this year, as they moved up from the middle school, had terrific records.
Yeah, I don't know if they went undefeated both years. They may have lost one their 7th grade year, but I believe if I remember right, they went undefeated as 8th graders.
Yes.
So this year's incoming freshman class is a good class. It's fairly deep too. They've got some depth in it, and that's what we like to see. Not all of them will probably continue down the road. Last year we had 2 seniors, but the year before that we had 7, and this year we'll have somewhere between 2 and 7. So. They find different things that they want to put their time into, or maybe they don't grow or develop as they continue in high school, but it's a good group to start with because especially the depth. If you only have 1 or 2 guys in a class and you lose one of those or both of them, then that's not very good. But if you start out with 6, 7, 8 guys and a couple of them you lose along the wayside, realistically, there's probably anywhere from 3 to 5 kids a year in a class that make it through. We had 7 that one year, which was unusual.
Don't coaches welcome those kind of problems?
It is. It is a good problem to have in terms of practice, in terms of competition, in terms of pushing one another, and not getting stale and never having anybody to compete against in practice.
Sure. I like to talk about the kids that come in off the bench, and not everybody can start. And these players have to be ready to go at a second's notice, don't they? I mean, you look down the line and say, so-and-so, and that kid reports in and maybe has 10 to 30 seconds waiting for a break to enter the game, but they have to be ready to go all the time.
We have high expectations of those kids that come off the bench. 1 through 10 or 1 through 12, however many guys are there. And, we tell them and we've told them, that chance when you get it, you need to seize the moment and make the most of it. And then you may have only been going in for a minute or 2 to give somebody a breather, but if you do a good job when you're in the game, you're going to stay in the game, and that guy will stay out longer, or he'll go in for somebody else, and you'll continue to play. But we do. I think if we have less expectations of those kids off the bench, they'll have fewer expectations of themselves. I have high expectations of anyone that I anticipate putting into the game, and we expect them not to turn the ball over, to play hard, play defense, rebound, and then if they can contribute on the offensive end, that's great. That's a bonus. But there are other things that everybody has to be able to do.
do you tell them who they're replacing, or is it automatic? Or?
You know, JD does most of our subbing. Sometimes that's based on foul trouble. Sometimes it's based on just trying to give someone a breather. Like Clay, maybe he'll come out the last minute of a quarter and then get a blow the first minute of the next quarter. You know, we always wanted to try to do that with like Garrett and people like that, but then, you know, we'd have the ball at the end of the quarter and we'd want him on the floor. It's easier for our defense, I guess. But JD does most of the subbing at the varsity level. And then once in a while, if I'm disappointed in something that I see, then I'll put someone in. And I'll give you an example. And I told the kids this the other night. I was watching a pro game. It was my favorite team. I won't mention who they are, but this guy on the other team drove down the lane. And this guy playing for my favorite team didn't slide over and take a charge, made no effort whatsoever. And I shared that with our kids, and there was something else I was sharing about fouling and, you know, who won the game and the team that fouled the least. But my point I was trying to make to them was that would be expected in our program, that you put forth the effort to do the right thing, no matter the outcome, and this guy did not. And, you know, as a professional, I don't know if they don't take them out when they don't do that, but at this level, when you don't do the right thing in something like that, you're going to come over and think about it beside the coach for a little while.
Okay.
And they lost the game that night, and it's plays like that. So, you know, I think they watch those games, some of them, maybe not. But I try to use some of that stuff as examples prior to our season getting started, where we have our own games and our own tape to show the kids.
Yes.
Coach, talk about your staff a little bit, if you would. That I know that Coach Cutter left. Thought he did a nice job for us last year, but he had an opportunity to move on. Talk about who you have helping you.
Well, we bring back J.D. Miller as our varsity assistant. J.D.'s been with me the entire time I've been here. Think the world of him, does a great job. If JD got out, I'd probably get out. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about that. So you guys keep JD assistant and I'll keep coaching. But I think the world of him, and then obviously his boys played in the program here since I've been here. Great kids.
Yes.
Chris Bottomley's been our JV coach, but because of his job, he's had to step away into a different role, different capacity. He does a great job relating to the kids. His background in the game is very similar to mine. He played for Howard, and, you know, we run a lot of motion and play a lot of man-to-man. So, but he's now a volunteer assistant for us. Cody Smith's going to be our JV coach this year. Cody played for me, so, you know, he can draw upon all those experiences, and that's a good thing.
He's really worked his way up through the ranks.
He has. I mean, he was a middle school coach, a volunteer, and then freshman, and now JV, and reminds me of kind of what I did. It took a little bit longer. I think I was an assistant for about 15 years back in the old days, and then finally got a chance as a varsity coach. But so there's JD, varsity assistant, Chris, volunteer assistant, Cody's a JV coach, and then because Chris can't be there all the time, we've brought back another former Spartan, Charles Peterson. So we're really happy to have him on board. He's young. He just graduated. I think there's some things that he'll be able to do with our kids that us old guys can't do in terms of demonstration and showing them on the court. And I think he'll be a real asset, especially with our guard play. He had a real nice career over at IU East, and was just a phenomenal shooter over there.
Terrific young man.
And he is. I'm just so glad that he's back with us. I didn't think we were going to get that opportunity, but he was going to try to go overseas and play some professional basketball, and that didn't work out. So their loss was our gain. And then at the freshman level, we have two other former Spartans I'm glad to have with us. T.J. Billups was assisting one of the 8th grade teams last year with Coach Silcott. And when I knew I was going to move Cody up, I had that opening, so I approached him about being the freshman coach, because I thought he would do a good job in terms of just his maturity for a young guy. He played again for me for 4 years here in our system, and it's always good to have guys coming back that have been in your system and know what your expectations are and what you want taught. And then another great asset to our team, I think this year, will be Andrew Stein. Graduated from Indiana University in Bloomington.
Super.
He's back in the community working. He helped out with the soccer program this fall. He's going to help out with the boys basketball this winter. And Andrew's one of those guys that I always have a story that I always relate to the kids, because there was one summer he was hurt and he couldn't play with us. And we work out 6 a.m. in the summertime. He couldn't practice. He could never play in any of our summer games. So he had nothing to gain by coming to those 6 a.m. workouts. He never missed a one. Went and traveled with the team. And I think that was a reason why that team won the conference and did good things, just because, you know, they had each other's backs and they supported each other. They didn't care. I mean, he wasn't going to get to play, but he never missed a 6 a.m. workout.
About
So
that.
he's one of those guys. I have those stories that I like to pass on to our other kids. And I could say the same things for Charles and TJ and Cody. You know, I'm happy to have those guys on staff.
Great, great. Sounds like a good staff.
Yeah, a lot of young guys. So, and the players relate to.
Yeah, you know, I am an old, you know, traditionalist, and I think the younger guys will relate to him probably better than maybe Coach Brown will. But at the same time, I think the kids understand it's about relationships, and whether you're old or young, as long as you care about them sincerely, and they'll know it. If you're a fake,
Sure.
they'll know if you're a fake, and if you're not a fake, they'll know that you're genuinely interested in them, whether you're, you know, patting them on the rear end or whether you're getting after them because they need to get after because they've made a mistake and they need to change something.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. How important is a locker room leader? I mean,
it can't be underestimated at all. The coaches aren't with the kids all the time. So we always say it like this: whoever's in charge in the locker room when the coaches aren't around, that's the kind of team we're going to have. And if we've got good leaders in the back of the locker room when the coaches aren't around, then we're going to have a good year. And if we've got poor leadership in the locker room when the coaches aren't around, that's probably going to be reflected in how we act and carry ourselves and play on the floor. So we've been very fortunate that we've had really good leaders in our locker room because the coaches aren't around the kids all the time.
Sure.
We're not in the back. I'm not saying we're not supervising. We're in our office near the front. I don't want to misunderstand that, but we're not with them every second of the day, the evening to look over them. And I think those kids need to understand that it's about something bigger than themselves, and our kids do. And, you know, they want to have each other's back, so to speak, and not do anything that would hurt anybody in our basketball family.
Do the next right thing.
Yep, exactly.
well, you always have a disciplined team, so there's no reason to think once they're not on the floor, they're still not disciplined.
They're 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds.
Okay.
So, but with that being said, no, I've been very fortunate. I've had good kids here, good parents in the 11 years that I've been here. And that's on our best teams, and that's on our worst teams in terms of record. I've been very fortunate. This has been, and I think maybe we talked about last time I was here, I've been fortunate, and I'm not looking to leave. I hope I get these guys to stay with me on staff. That makes my job easier. But you know, one of the reasons I stay here is because of the program and the relationships with our kids and the other coaches. And it's been a good ride.
Mm-hmm. It's been a real good ride.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we, you know, some of the football games that we had and the teams, I talked afterwards to someone from that team and said, I'd kind of like to have your football team. And they said, we'd kind of like to have your basketball team. And I said, no, we're not trading them. How important are parents in your system?
You know, I think they're important in all aspects of the student life or of the athlete life, or just even socially, helping kids make the right decisions. You know, I think back to when I was young. My parents never, ever asked me when I came home from practice or the game. They never, ever discussed the game with me. Never. I think they separated it, and, you know, there's that adage about players play and coaches coach and officials officiate and parents support. And I see myself in that same respect with my grandsons. I don't intervene or interfere as a coach. They've got coaches. I'm the grandparents, and like their parents, and when they get done with their contest, I hug them and tell them I love them, and they did a good job, whether they did or not, and whether we won or lost.
Yes.
So parents can help us best by being supportive of the coaches, of their teachers, and of their sons and daughters, and just, you know, not trying to do those things that, I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I'm not perfect. I'll probably make some mistakes along the way, but hopefully one of my assistants will correct me when I make that mistake anytime we would air, it wouldn't be intentionally to harm someone's son or daughter. But I think if parents are giving their kids the right message at home, that school's important, that athletics are important, that the decisions you make when you go out socially, those are important in your development, then I think they're doing the right things. And like I said, we've been very fortunate. The 11 years I've been here, we've had outstanding parents.
Right. We had the fall awards program last week. I know you look forward to that after the winter sports program. You have to give these kids a lot of credit. I mean, they've helped in their sports, and their teammates are the ones that make the selection, aren't they?
And a little bit different from sport to sport. It is the athletes, and then at least in basketball, the coaches also vote. And I don't know how every single program does it, but when I announce ours, it's a coach and a player, or a coach and teammates vote. So, and I don't know exactly why I do it that way. I mean, we're in there with them all the time. I think we should have some input into who had the best attitude, who we thought the most valuable player was. And then I think if there is any kind of, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but sometimes it could, I don't want it to be a popularity contest. I'll just say it like that. And I think maybe when the coaches get involved, that helps even it out a little bit. So, but I don't know that all coaching staffs participate in that. I know in basketball we do.
And the individual awards, like best percentage and all that, that just speaks for itself. It's just numbers.
They solve themselves. That's right. Yes, sir.
What goes into the best mental attitude category? What?
I think it's, are you sincerely and genuinely, supporting your teammates, positive attitude, grades that come into it for me. Are you a communicator? Are you a leader both on and off the court? Our kids do other things as well. We participate in the Gleaners food drive. Our kids are working camps. I mean, I think there's so many things that they can do to demonstrate the positive mental attitude that they have. And it's just not about them. As long as they're concerned genuinely and sincerely about people other than themselves, then I think that their attitude's in the right place.
Controlling temper, and when things don't go right the way you like them and things like that.
Well, that's a part of it, and you just have to learn how to handle it and channel your energies in the right way. I was talking with my wife last night about emotions, and I was watching a game, and the team was down 30 points, and the guy scored a touchdown, and you would have thought that they just won the game. And I said to her, I said, they're down 30 points, and he's celebrating in the end zone. It's about him. And I'm all for emotion, but let's keep things in perspective. We're getting beat. Let's move on. Let's get the ball back, and we got work to do. Yeah. And that's where I come from with a lot of this stuff. And I think that's probably a different mentality than exists in today's society.
It's the everybody gets a trophy attitude.
I and me, and all I am is it's about the team. That's first and foremost in our minds and our goals and our approach.
And that's why we see the success we see.
Hopefully the kids buy in, and if they don't buy in, it wouldn't make any difference.
Again, a reminder: the girls open this Thursday at New Palestine.
We'll be there. Dave and I will be there.
Give us the story starting about 7:15 or so.
7:15, and then we got a shootout at Southport on Saturday.
At 11:30 you play Decatur Central, and at 4:30 you play Indianapolis Ritter.
We'll have both of those.
And we're home for the first home game, Mount Vernon Marauders, 7:30 on Friday, November 15th.
Looking forward to it all.
Should be a great, fun season.
For Coach Brown's kids, 23 days.
For this guy, we appreciate, as always, spending a half hour with us, taking away from valuable practice time, but I'm sure he'll make it up.
We have conditioning tonight from 6:30 to 7:45. I'm not missing anything yet.
Coach, thanks again.
Appreciate you guys having me.
And thanks, everybody, for watching this edition of the Spartan Sport Report here on TV3. Good evening.